Hello, welcome to Science Chomp. Today we're going to be talking about the lymphatic system. Now, every time your heart pumps, it pushes some fluid out of the capillaries. Okay? A lot of this is reabsorbed by the capillaries, but some of this fluid, and we'll call this tissue fluid, it isn't absorbed by the capillaries. And if it's not absorbed by something, what it's going to do, this fluid is going to build up and it's going to cause problems. And if you're a bit squeamish, shut your eyes now. And as you can see, all these people have got lymphatic system problems. Basically, the lymphatic systems have been blocked, and this fluid, what it's done is it's built up in their legs. It can also happen in your face, in your hands, everywhere, basically. And it's called elephantiasis. The reason because their legs look like elephant legs. It's a horrible condition. It's caused by a parasite. Okay, the technical term for this disease is called lymphatic filariasis. Okay, you can open your eyes now. The reason I showed you those pictures is to show you how important the lymphatic system is. Now, of course, if you've got a functioning lymphatic system, you saw those pictures, you'll know what it does is it drains all of the fluid around the cells. Okay, and that's what the lymph vessels and the lymph capillaries, what these do. Okay, so what I've got here are all of the parts of the lymphatic system, and I'll describe each part, and then after I've described them, we'll talk about basically the functions of the lymphatic system. I think it probably would make more sense that way, so bear with me. If you've got any questions about it, just put it down in the comments below, but I urge you to watch the whole video first, and then perhaps watch it one more time because it will make more sense when you watch it twice. Okay, so the lymph capillaries and the lymph vessels, what they do is they drain the lymph. Now what the lymph is the fluid that has been pushed out of the capillaries and not reabsorbed by the capillaries again. So it's just the tissue fluid surrounding the cells that gets drained into these. They call the fluid lymph, and the lymph capillaries and the lymph vessels, they take this fluid and they put it back into the bloodstream. Okay? Then you've got the bone marrow. Now what the bone marrow does is it produces these things called lymphocytes. Now lymphocytes, that's just a fancy word for saying white blood cells. And white blood cells, they fight infection. Okay? There's actually two types of white blood cells. There's T cells and there are B cells. Now the reason why they're called this is, and they're both produced by the bone marrow, is that the B cells, they develop inside the bone marrow, and the T cells, they develop inside the thymus. Okay, that's why they're called T cells, they're thymus cells, but they're both white blood cells and they both fight infection. Okay? Then you've got lymph nodes. Now what lymph nodes are, they basically filter pathogens and they store white blood cells. So pathogens are things like bacteria, viruses, fungi, this kind of thing. And what it does, it gets your lymphatic system carries the lymph to the lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes trap all of these pathogens and they kill them because they store lymphocytes. Okay? So lymphocytes are the white blood cells that kill all the pathogens, and they stick around in there. Okay? The thymus, as I mentioned before, they develop T cells, so T cells are white blood cells. And the spleen, this does a couple of functions. Okay, the spleen, it stores and produces lymphocytes, and it also recycles red blood cells as well. Okay. Finally, you got the tonsils, and the tonsils are at the back of your throat. And what they do is they trap the pathogens. If you've got a throat infection, they trap the pathogens there, and they kill them. Okay. Now, the reason why when you get sick, your throat swells up, sometimes you get swellings in your armpits and your groin, is that your neck, groin, and armpits contain lots of lymph nodes. And as I mentioned before, what the lymph nodes do is they filter the pathogens and then they kill them with the lymphocytes. So if there's lots of pathogens going around your body, and now a pathogen, remember, is a is a microorganism that causes disease. If there's loads of these things going around in your body, and these things store them, of course, when you've got an infection, they're going to get bigger, okay? And that's why sometimes when you've got the flu, your armpit swells up a little bit, your neck swells up a little bit, you know, this kind of thing. And it's because these are filtering all of the pathogens, okay? Now, going on to the functions of the lymphatic system, it's basically got two functions, but you can basically split those into two more functions. So all in all, you've got four functions. So the first one is absorption. It absorbs the tissue fluid and drains it into the circulatory system. Another thing that it absorbs are fats from the digestive system. So the first function, it absorbs tissue fluid. Second function, it absorbs fat. Okay? So that's two already. Now, the other two is that it filters pathogens and dead cells. Okay? And number four is it kills pathogens. So it fights infection and it filters dead cells and pathogens. Okay? That's basically it for the lymphatic system. It's basically a series of drainage channels to drain fluid from the tissue back into the bloodstream, and it also fights infection. I hope that makes a lot of sense. See you in the next video.